All right, can everyone hear me? Perfect. So today it is just going to be me on the call. I don't think Arjun is able to make it today, but I can totally kind of run the session, go through any questions that have been coming in the past week, right? So just by way of introduction for anyone that hasn't been on the meetings or has not met me yet, I'm Jim Johnson. I'm the lead of tax operations here at doola. Personally, I handle, a decent amount of our clients through consultations. If you have any advisory questions, it's always going to be me that you go through. And then also, we're hosting this weekly webinar series as we kind of go throughout the tax season. So over the past few weeks, there are definitely some questions that are continually appearing. So if you've attended some of the prior webinars, right, there might be some overlap of questions, but each week we do go through and add new ones each time. So since there is not really, at least on this one, the more conversational aspect, since Arjun's not here, it's probably just going to be me going through questions and then answering them. And then, if you have anything to add, or if you want me to kind of elaborate on a question, feel free to kind of type it into chat, right? I think that's kind of the best route here. So I can pretty much hop right into the questions. I think it's probably the best route. We can probably wait one more minute, as we usually do. I think we usually wait around 5. So give me 1 second. And also, if you guys could just, similar to like Arjun has been doing the past few times, just type into chat, maybe what country you're from, where you're tuning in from. I think that's really interesting and exciting for us to know who's actually kind of tuning in from around the world. Just kind of post into that chat right there, just the country you're tuning in from. Nice. It seems like just like all of the other broadcasts, everyone seems to be around the world with no specific area in particular. Okay. Serbia, Vietnam, Jamaica. All right. So I'll hop right into the questions now, as long as it's fine with everyone. I think it's a good point to start now that we waited 5 minutes. If anyone's joining late, they can just tune in or see it on YouTube after it's uploaded. The first question, that we still continue to get right is it's kind of based around timing, right? If I formed, an LLC in 2023, right, or if I formed an LLC at the end of 2022 and I am a foreign owner of a single member US LLC, there's always this question of, do I still need to file taxes even if I haven't had any activity? The first thing that I usually ask clients is, well, what do you mean by, you don't have any activity? A lot of people tend to think that just because they don't have any income for the year or any expenses for the year, they don't have to file anything for taxes. That's just not the case. Things that would indicate that you need to file taxes as a foreign owned single member LLC, even just opening a bank account and putting money into it, you're still going to have to file some informational filing, even if you actually haven't even generated any revenue or generated any expenses. It's going to kind of require you to still kind of file that form 5472. So it comes down to just not necessarily if your business is created really late in the year or if your business has made any income or not. You're going to have to file for that tax year if you have certain reportable transactions. And what I recommend to every single one of our clients, especially the ones that are foreign single member LLCs, reach out directly to us to kind of have a conversation about the types of transactions you've had in the year. It would be very I'm trying to think of the best word. it would be not great for you as a business owner, right, to be liable for that IRS penalty of the, what is it, $25,000, just because you didn't disclose certain contributions or distributions, right? Even if you didn't think it mattered. So that's why I just would always recommend, if you've had any transactions whatsoever during the tax year, reach out, even if you don't think they necessarily matter, because it will kind of require you to do that filing. So that's just kind of the first thing I'd like to hit on. Do I need to file? Well, do I need to file even if I've had no income or revenue? Chances are probably. So our second question that I think is also kind of something that has been appearing is, when are you liable to pay taxes here in the United States? Oh, wait, actually, Antonio, if you're not a single member, we're a partnership of two. In that case, you kind of follow different rules. A partnership, generally, if you have no transactions whatsoever, you're not going to have to file anything, I would say. If you have no income or expenses, there are still transactions that would cause you to have to file, right? Just like contributions and distributions. But if you have no activity whatsoever as a partnership, and I mean no activity whatsoever, not even the bank accounts being opened and money being deposited in, then you wouldn't have that filing requirement. So just to kind of answer your question, Antonio, it's similar, but yeah. So let's see, what was my next question? My next question that I think I've been getting a lot is, people are asking about, when are they liable to pay? When are they liable to pay taxes here in the United States? Is it when my money leaves the bank account and I withdraw it back to my home country? Or is it like if I just leave money in a bank account in the United States, am I going to get taxed on that money that's in the United States? The short answer is, really, here in the United States, we do not tax, on the actual kind of cash that you're leaving in any bank accounts or anything like that. What you're going to be taxed on generally in the United States, if you have US source income, is your net earnings at the end of the year. So what that means is, obviously, it's your revenues of all your sales minus all of your expenses. That gets you to an earnings amount, right? Generally, this isn't the exact same thing as the amount of cash that you have distributed out to owners, or maybe the money that you've paid yourself. Even if you left the money in the United States and didn't withdraw it or take it out as an owner's distribution, you're still going to be paying the taxes and liable to pay those taxes, basically as a percentage of your ownership of the company. So let's say that a partnership, right? Each of you own 50% of the partnership. Let's say that partnership makes $10,000 in the last year, but doesn't actually distribute anything. Sorry, doesn't actually distribute anything to any of the partners. Well, the two partners that own 50% of the partnership, they still owe taxes on that $5,000, even if they've never actually received that money. That's just kind of how taxation works here in the United States. It's based on earnings, not necessarily the distributions. Let's see, and the questions are coming in through chat. Let's see if I can go through it and start to answer a few of these live. So let's see, Larry, would a single member have to file if there is no activity whatsoever? Again, as long as you have absolutely no activity in the slightest, meaning you have no contributions to your bank account, you haven't opened up an account and even deposited $100 into it just to open it. If you don't even have that much activity, then yeah, I would say there's no obligation to file as a single member. What if no activity whatsoever is non-resident single member LLC, just opening the bank account? Again, if you open the bank account, it's at zero and there's technically no money in it, and there's no true activity, you would not have to file anything. But if you open that bank account and let's say you deposited $100 into it just to open up the account, well, that's technically a reportable transaction, makes you kind of have to file the form 5472 to answer that question, Nicola. Everyone else. let's see. I'm trying to see. Let's see, Dion 876. If my LLC was formed in January 2023, is my first date for filing April 2023 or April 2024? So tax year, and this kind of spins off to another question, when are taxes due here in the United States? So taxes are almost 100% of the 100%, almost 100% of the time. Almost 99% of the time, it's going to be your tax years from January 1st to December 31st of that year. And so what that means is, in your situation, Diane 876, if your LLC was formed in January 2023, well, it hasn't completed a full tax year yet. That means your tax year is going to be January to December 2023. You don't have to file any taxes until the next spring, right? So April 2024, if your business started in January 2023, this tax season doesn't matter to you. You need to just be planning and preparing for next tax season in 2024. It's always going to be the following spring that taxes are due here in the United States. Let's see, which form I should be filing in case I opened a US bank account and deposited money already, just to be sure. Is it 5472? If you're a foreign owned single member LLC, it is a 5472. If you are a C Corp that is over 20% owned by a foreign individual, it's going to be 5472. So in those two circumstances, that is going to be the form that that you file with the IRS. One second, let me just take a drink of water since we had a lot of questions just pop up. So in JEFTA, saw online consultancy to non-US based customers, should I pay any taxes? Okay, well, this is again a part of one of our other questions on what is actually taxable here in the United States, right? So you might ask, I sell online consultancy to non-US based customers, should I pay any taxes? So the thing about the United States is, we consider income here to be taxable if it's a service, based on where you're performing it. It doesn't matter if you're performing online services to someone in the United States. It doesn't matter if you're performing online services to someone, in Europe. What matters is, well, where are you actually doing the online service? So if you're an online consultant and you're based out of, let's say, India, well, the argument that we tend to make is, all of that income needs to be taxable in India. We would just file an informational filing with the IRS and say, well, the rest of that income needs to go to India. This person's a resident of India. Their business model is they do, online consulting, or maybe they do, they run a travel agency and offer some sort of services there. But basically, if you're doing all of your business through your computer or laptop and it's a service-based business, I don't, anyway, our CPAs here at doola, we don't really consider that to be taxable here in the United States, because the way the IRS defines, engaged in US trade and business means, if you're performing a service, it has to be actually done in the United States. And our argument is, if you're doing it from your laptop or computer from your home country, it's not in the United States, right? So that's just to kind of give you an understanding there of, what services are taxable in the United States. Well, you actually have to be doing a service in the United States for it to be taxable. Now, if you have product, right? We have a lot of, e-commerce clients and a lot of drop shippers. Product is a little bit of a different story. If you're selling product to the United States, generally it is normally considered taxable. However, if you don't have any real physical presence here in the United States, like warehouses or any employees, and the product is all manufactured outside of the United States, even though if it's being sold to US customers, our argument is that, some of that income is not taxable. What I recommend to anyone who has questions about, I sell product to, in the United States through my US company, if you have questions about what would be considered taxable in that aspect, I highly recommend, scheduling a consultation with me and going over your specific situation. It is a very easy yes or no question on, what services are taxable if you're a service-based business. It's a lot more gray once you start to sell product here to US customers. Then there are situations where it's absolutely taxable. And then there are situations where, well, maybe it's not so completely taxable here in the United States. So I just kind of defer to, if you have questions about, is your product taxable in the US, please schedule a consultation. Let's see. Jeannie, 100% foreign owned C Corp, no transactions. You made bank deposits. Should I file 5472? In general, I would say yes is the appropriate answer. If you're a C Corp, you still have the same Form 5472 filing requirements as a foreign owned single member LLC. So if you do just have a bank deposit, even if it's like some marginal amount of money, the safer route is to just go ahead and disclose that on Form 5472, just so that, there's no risk of penalties whatsoever. Any question about source of income? We need to book other appointment privately with you. I mean, I can certainly give, like general guidance through these calls, for service-based companies specifically, it's relatively straightforward. For people selling digital products, it's a little bit more straightforward. But if you're selling product into the United States, it really is so varied on a case-by-case basis that for the most part, yes, I do kind of recommend that you do book a appointment privately as part of your doola subscription, or reach out to see if you can get that. Could you please share a link to hire your accounting services? I think we have this link right here that will absolutely assist. Okay, so I'm going to keep going through these questions, everyone. So, feel free to post them, and I am going to go through them on kind of what's, well, one, practical to answer on a Q&A, and then two, what's probably most applicable to everyone. So, Nicola, can we go over a practical example for an online? Yeah, actually, this is a pretty good one because people always ask, like, how do I pay myself out of my US company? So Nicola said, an online service, or consulting, whatever. So you're an online service provider and you don't perform it in the US, you're performing it at home, but you generate, let's say 10,000 US dollars in profit. How am I supposed to pay myself from my US company? A lot of people tend to think it's like just entirely through payroll, or they have to wait until the end of the year, or they have to like schedule like dividends or all this stuff. But the thing is, if you're a single owner of an LLC, you just pay yourself whenever you want. It's your bank account. For all practical purposes, the company is you. All you have to do to pay yourself that $10,000, I mean, you could have paid it to yourself earlier in the year, you could pay it yourself at the end of the year. All you have to do is withdraw the money from your bank account back to your home country. The way that we would report that is on the Form 5472. Well, then we just have another transaction we have to disclose. I would simply write down, if you paid yourself $10,000 out of your US company, all I would disclose to the IRS is, related party / owner withdrew $10,000 on this day, or $1,000 10 different times throughout the year. If you're a foreign owned single member LLC, that's how you pay yourself. Withdraw the money, and it's taxable in your home country, right? For the most part, if you don't have any US source income, or if you're not engaged in US trade or business. So hopefully that answers that question, Nicola. For total compliance. For total compliance, doola files our taxes completely. What happens if the IRS chooses to audit the company? I mean, so this is a question, right? We also get often like, what is doola's responsibility after the IRS audits? Ultimately, when we prepare a tax return for you, I'm signing off with my full representation and my full kind of authority that I've reviewed the documents. I believe everything is stated fairly, and if the IRS comes back to you with any questions, in terms of who the contact would be, the first person they would speak to is me, because I'm the one signing off as review on all of these different things, and for the audit, I could be kind of the first point of contact saying, I reviewed this, the business does this type of service, which is why we didn't report this as taxable. We just filed this form. So in the event of an audit with the IRS, right, we are their representation, and I explain all of the logic on the tax return, right, on what we ended up disclosing. So basically, I would say that for the most part, we would handle the entirety of the audit. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's, if there was something that, for example, say that the IRS found out about through looking at other records that I was not familiar with, that you did not mention to me as an owner through our conversations, well, then ultimately that comes down onto you as the business owner. But if you've disclosed everything to me, right, and I've kind of looked through all the documents available, ultimately it's going to be liable on me to kind of, state my opinion and explain it to the IRS as to why we reported things the way we did. So that's the type of representation you'd get when you actually have a CPA signing off on your return, and not just a tax preparer or TurboTax or whatever the people tend to use. So let's see. Can I file the Form 5472 by myself as a single owner of a company? Yeah, you certainly can. I would not recommend it, just because the penalty of filing it incorrectly or filing it non completely is $25,000. I just think the compliance risk, right, that $25,000 fine is just too hard to be preparing a kind of judgment-based form, without a CPA, right? Regardless of who you go with, even if it's not doola, if you're filing Form 5472, I 100% recommend you have to use a CPA, really. Let's see. I need to file a franchise tax with Delaware and your C Corp. Yeah, a lot of people are having their franchise tax due soon for Delaware. So just to kind of give an understanding of what franchise tax really is, franchise tax, operating fees, business license fee, every state calls it something different. For all practical purposes, that franchise tax, it's not essentially a tax. I say that because almost every single person is going to pay, or every single business, most businesses are going to pay the exact same amount of money every single year. And it's basically a fee to the state. It varies state by state, but basically a fee to the state just to stay in business. So what we do for franchise taxes for our owners is, obviously we send the reminders out, but and we can also do the annual report if you want us to. But I do think, for the most part, most owners will just go in simply on their own to the state website, because the annual report is usually something as straightforward as, who's the business owner, how much in assets you have, and it's fine if you just take kind of the gross assets from the end of last year, meaning your bank account, right? Yeah, Jeannie, the bank deposit, that would be kind of the only gross asset I would disclose on the annual report with the state, unless you have other asset accounts. And ultimately, you'll file it with the Delaware authorities, and they'll just charge you this fee that you have to pay. So an annual report, pretty separate from the state income taxes and the federal income taxes that the CPA deals with. The annual report is more of just this annual fee that you pay with the state, and usually business owners will go in and kind of fill it out themselves. But we can certainly assist and certainly aid you in the process if you have any questions about it. Let's see. I'm trying to see which questions I have not covered, since a lot of them are on here. At what point are you considered living in the United States for tax purposes, right? Also, just to kind of clarify on my last statement, the deadline for the Delaware annual report is March 1st. So just, anyone who hasn't kind of filed or reached out or started doing that yet, I would kind of go ahead and pay that franchise fee as soon as you can. So let's see. At what point would you be considered living in the United States? Like that, this will probably be our last question given the amount of time. So let me just double check to see if the amount changed. So basically, to be considered a tax resident in here in the United States, you have to meet something called the substantial presence test. To do this, you have to be 31 days in the current year, right? But then in the past 3 years, including this year, it needs to be 183 days or more in total. So that kind of amounts to around 6 months or so, I'd say. So if you've been in the US for over 6 months in total over the past 3 years, I'd say chances are you're probably going to be considered a US tax resident. You'd be able to file a return here and you'd be liable to file taxes here. So that's just something easy to answer. It's an easy test to apply. If you have any questions about it, feel free to reach out. But, usually if you've been in the US for at least 31 days in the current year, 183 days or more in the past 3 years, you're considered a US tax resident. You got to file taxes here in the United States. It's going to be effectively connected. So that was a lot of questions I just got through, I think, on the meeting. JP, is there anything that I should mention that I'm not mentioning? I think that's all the time for questions today. I just would recommend everyone, we've been posting throughout the chat this link to our free consultations. And feel free also to, through that consultation, if you would like to speak to me, we can help with those individual situations and absolutely kind of give you the tax advice, especially on those items that are more gray, like, am I engaged in US trade or business? Will I really be paying tax if I sell product, or I'm a drop shipper or whatever? Those are all things we can handle, one-on-one through meetings. So with that being said, I'm beginning to lose my voice. That's probably all that we have time for now. Feel free again to book a consultation. I'm trying to, has everyone been getting the, let's see, does everyone see the consultation link? I just want to make sure it's actually going into the chat. Okay, cool, great, perfect. All right, well, thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll do this again next week with a different set of questions, and probably honestly the live Q&A is pretty exciting, at least for me. So that's probably how we'll do it again next week. So, all right, thanks everyone. Bye.